All right, so here we are with Anchor Your Purpose with Vocal Power. So I'm just kind of getting acquainted here with StreamYard. It's a little different than my normal association. Uh, Even the colors are showing up differently. I wonder if that's because it's evening. Anyways, welcome to Anchor Your Purpose with Vocal Power. This is really going to be a little bit of an exploration of these ideas because I understand that a lot of people are just kind of getting acquainted with my work. And people that have known about my work for a little bit still have a lot of questions, right? So, whatever questions come up for you about what is vocal power, what is voice work, why do I care about it? I'm not a singer. Those kind of questions, let me know. Those are kind of how they sound to me. So I need like detailed questions so that I can answer them specifically. Um, so otherwise I just go on a tangent. I can talk about all the things that I've ever heard, and that would just be boring and take forever. So we're not doing that. What we are doing is talking a little bit about purpose today. So anchoring your purpose. What is that? What does that mean? Purpose, number one, how do you define it? For all of us, I think we do it a little differently. In my biz, how I talk about purpose is about who we be. So more than who you are as far as a title or what you do, or do you have a husband, do you have children, are you a mother, are you a sister, are you a brother, instead of those different things, I'm looking at literally the physical makeup of who you are, who you be, your DNA, literally, that creates the archetype that is you. Do I believe you can live outside of archetypes? Yes, I do. I think you can. I also think that it takes some work. It also takes some work. It takes that deep work of knowing yourself, and then once you know yourself, you can live with awareness beyond that. But until you know yourself, and getting to know yourself, that's the tricky part because we have so many misperceptions from um, what we were taught, what we thought was total truth when we were growing up, and what we've incorporated as true until we can get to the time available to know and understand differently, right? So if we haven't had time to do that deep work, if we didn't even know that deep work existed until yesterday, there's still a lot of things that come up that actually cloud our true perceptions of what's happening. And 9 times out of 10, when we're trying to connect to others, which is really what I do, is I really help people to understand themselves better, connect to themselves better so they can connect with others better. That's what I really do, right? And so when we're on that journey, it helps to have some landmarks. It helps to have some ideas. Does this sound like me? It's close, but in this way, it's different. I never look at archetypes like gene keys, like the 12 signs, right? I don't look at those things in astrology as them telling me who I am or them telling me what the energy on the planet is even. I'm looking at them to say, what are the indicators? And then how am I perceiving that within my world, body, soul, being, right? And that I'm using them as landmarks so that I can chart my own understanding of self, not as informing me of who I am. And I think that's a really good way to do it because we all, much like all these ideas, they're all human generated and colored by our own perceptions and experiences. And so if that is, we're taking everything as our truth, our personal truth, then that's where we're getting lost on the path of our own self discovery. Okay. So that's the first part. Purpose is who you be. You actually can't get purpose wrong. You're not going to miss out on your purpose this time at that bat in your life. That's what I believe. So You can find your own beliefs, but my belief is that you're actually being it by being. Like, you're alive, you're on the planet, you're on purpose. Now, my objective, and I'm inviting you to, is to be in co-creation with your purpose so that you get to join in the delights and the fun and the pride, even, yeah, of creating something intentionally. And when we are creating things unintentionally, they usually tend to be things that we don't want, number one. And number two, we don't enjoy it because we don't appreciate it because we're not aware of it. Even though the people around us are benefiting from it all the time, believe me, your friends are benefiting from it, your family is benefiting from it. And even if you're not creating intentionally, your people are benefiting from it because you're either teaching them by living in the shadow and what isn't what they want, right? Or you're teaching them by being in the gift and being an inspiration for them to live in theirs, right? So my goal is to consciously live into that purpose, right? Why did I decide to anchor your purpose right now? Right now, today? Okay, maybe the first time, it was more for the first time. The first time I wanted it to be a full workshop, but my reach didn't quite make it. I feel it's also kind of that, am I going to show up and do this voice thing that I don't understand, kind of reactions I sometimes get when I talk about doing voice as a workshop. Um, and it's so interesting because the people that are comfortable using their voices in any way, including singing, often don't feel that it's interesting. They just don't feel the need to process with others. They can do it on their own. So, part of that is that. So I'm kind of filling into my community in that regard right now. But I was like, this is an important concept. I developed a workshop because it was needed. How can I get the workshop to more people? Was my thinking. It's like, okay, well, with my availability, what I can and cannot do. Um, I think one way that I'll try to do this is through the actual YouTube, right? So I'm like, well, it's going to stream. Normally, my videos are seen by somebody. And so maybe the title or, the comments or the description, even when I put more description in later, I'm going to put more description in later. When I do that, will help people to find it. Anyways, my point being is that this time is important because we are reconfiguring what we understand our purpose to be based on what has changed up until now. So when I say what has changed up until now, we all know that the, the vid the vid was a big change across the world in humanity. It has hopefully brought us closer to ourselves and understanding ourselves by being by ourselves and with people who are close to us for extended periods of time, which can't help but bring out your true self, right? In ways that maybe we invited and maybe didn't invite. We have learned more about ourselves. We have learned more about what is true in the world, which has always been true, but it's been highlighted that the world is changing, that things are constantly changing, and that it's not slowing down anytime soon. And that change is a constant has always been true. But now we are faced with it in real ways that can affect our daily lives. We are interested in how do we deal and grow in and through these changes. I don't know about anybody else, but kind of when I was growing up and how I've even seen other people do it out there who look like they know what they're doing, is they'll stop and recognize the change, integrate the change, and then move forward. You remember when we had time for that? Like, I remember talking about periods of integration like they were the holy grail. I would take whole weeks off in the middle of life, which is my day-to-day, month-to-month life, I would take whole weeks off just because I needed time to integrate, right? I'm talking about spiritually, I'm talking about situations in my life, maybe moves, maybe changes in career or new ideas and directions in my business. A week minimum to integrate those things. That is not available in this current dynamic. Now, can I enforce that boundary and create that? Yes. Am I led to do so? Am I intuiting that that's the right way to move forward? No. Things are moving very fast and for a reason, right? We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and it's very evident in the energy and the urgency among others. How can we not share urgency with others? Like, we have enough urgency in the world. There's enough dire circumstances in the world than to create more anxiety and urgency with others, especially when it's not necessary. It's just not, we want to be connected to the timeliness of things and understand that we all have our own things that come up on a daily basis, again, spiritually, mentally, physically, on a daily basis. And so don't make your timing somebody else's timing. Sorry, I had to drop that because it's coming up in the energies right now. So if anybody's paying attention to astrology, like that Aries, man, bro, showing out, man. Like, I get it. And in the past, I would take that energy and I would sit down and not move. Like I said, like I just said, like for a week, for months even. Like, I was in full rebellion mode against, you're going to make me do something, right? Now I recognize with awareness that that may not be the best way to go about it. So what have you recognized? What has come up in your awareness, right? About maybe the way you used to be and the way that's no longer true for you, that's no longer authentic for you. I think it's important that we recognize that we are changing in and of ourselves. It's not just the world around us changing, we are changing. And when we use old identifiers of who we are, we tend to move into kind of excuse making. And, I don't really believe in excuses. Like, there are reasons, and they may or may not be. They may or may not be the sole cause, right? But whenever we have to, again, project those ideas, then we're not being honest with where we are. Where are we at? How are we? What are we needing? What are we responding to? So that's why, because there's been so many energetic shifts this year and last year and the year before and the year before that. And we kept thinking, oh, the next year it'll get back to normal. Maybe, I mean, I never thought that, but the world was thinking, they were saying these things. We're going to get back to a normal. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I don't think it's going to happen. And we were made for this. I think for those of us who even in my personality, where I like calm, I like comfort, I love ease, I love even I don't kind of call it repetition necessarily. I don't like to repeat things, but I love familiarity. I love tradition. Hey, I'm Cancer Sun and Moon, Scorpio rising. So I may look different on the surface, but at heart, like, I love some consistency. Let's, you know what I'm saying? I love some consistency. Like, one of my favorite traits, even though, about certain things, I wish there wasn't a habit, but one of the things I absolutely adore about my husband is his consistency. Like, I know what he's going to be doing. I like that about my husband. BTW, we're doing a live on Wednesday together. So if you want to come hang out with us for that, we're going to develop a show together, and I want you to be part of that process. So if you are interested in relationships and how we relate, we've been married 16 years, gone on 17 this year. We're happy. And we hope to keep this up. We'll see what happens, is what we always say. um, and like what that means with ourselves and with each other and the work that we do, because he's a leader of teams in sales. I'm a leader of people and their self-expression, which is essentially personal selves. It is. I know it's weird to think of it that way, and I know my people may not appreciate that definition, but it is. It really is, and how we are sharing the good news of ourselves. Okay. So there is that. That's the purpose question. Like, what is new about your purpose? How has it changed because of the changes in the world and the changes in you as the energies are shifting, as you feel different today than you felt yesterday? And how is that speaking to how you are sharing yourself, your vision with the world differently moving forward? I'm curious. I am curious, y'all. If you have any answers on that, I'm so interested in what you have to say. I know for me, where I thought visibility was something that was self oriented and self dictated and self contained. My timing, my my desires, what I want to share, what I have learned, what I have learned is that I'm more interested in the connection. And that means being more interested in connection is also being interested in how I am heard, right? So that doesn't mean that I stop being myself in order to be heard, but to hear what people need to hear in order to feel that they are being served has become a new point of purpose for me, showing up in a way that people know that I am hearing them is also important for me. And that has changed greatly about my purpose because I never saw the visibility piece as part of my purpose. I thought of it as more, and tell me if anybody vibes with this. I thought of the visibility piece more as what it takes to be in business, right? So it was kind of feeding the cow to get the milk, right? Like it was, I don't even know where that saying came from. But basically, it was just the task I did to get to what I really wanted to do, which was help people, right? Now I see the visibility piece as part of the purpose in and of itself. I am here to be visible, even in my introversion, even in my not always clarity, even in my still working on the words that help people understand what I do, right? And so it's getting funner, y'all, because I'm playing with so many different branding ideas at this point. And I'm playing with them because I learned the structures. Trust me, I paid tens of thousands of dollars to learn the structures of these archetypes of branding and marketing and all these kind of things. And I've taken what I wanted and I've left the rest, right? I recommend that for anybody. And I recommend that, like most things in life, there are templates you can use to get so far, and then the rest is what is meaningful and impactful for you. And that is only discovered by understanding yourself clearly and being, and again, I use archetypes, I use astrology to understand that for myself. To see yourself clearly is a skill in and of itself, right? So it's a skill that I have to hopefully have developed pretty well and am continuing to develop. And it's something that I think all business owners need as well, because this stuff is not for the faint-hearted, folks. And if you're doing a business based on your passion, it's times 10. It's times 10. It's getting to the heart. Your passion is based to the heart of who you are and what you want to share with the world in that regard is so deep and meaningful that we really want to make sure that it's getting across the right way. And if we're letting the possibility that it's not getting across the right way hold us back, hold us up, then we run into problems because it's part of the experience. It's part Okay, so sharing and then seeing how it connects or does not connect with others is part of what needs to happen in order to develop your own language for you and the people that you work with. Okay. And the other side of this is really anchoring that in. So are you anchoring that in? Because we can see, okay, yeah, now I understand it's supposed to be more visible. But what does that mean? And how do I make that? And make, I don't like that word. Those are in my studio understand that. I don't like the word and make it happen, that phrase. But how does that look like when I'm being it? That's probably the better way to say it, yeah? And it looks like this, me showing up even when it's not my best day. Like it's not my, oh yeah, I feel like being seen today day. It's more like what's that book I've been reading? Day today, which may be a way to do it. I don't know. I've gone through all the things though. I've tried doing solely based on like a personal passions and all that kind of thing. It's just not motivating to me personally to be seen, right? And so that is a big kind of like most people have a sense of timing about those things because they want to be seen, and it's part of the timing of what needs to happen for them. I mean, just energetically as a person and an archetype, right? And for those of us who it's not, it it has to be a real exploration. And for me right now, it's looking like setting these times up beforehand and then showing up for myself and others. So I love that because I just did a transit video on what it looks like to show up for yourself and others, right? Maybe I not so much in the transit video, but it is part of the understanding of the key that I share, which is Gene Key 37. So your purpose, one of the things that I love to do is for people to look up your purpose in the Gene Keys and to see what the shadow of it is. That's our most identifiable piece because we're so hard on ourselves, is that shadow part, right? So what's that shadow look like? Is it recognizable? If it is, then the gift is available. That's what I love about the Gene Keys. Like, it doesn't leave you there and be like, oh, you got bad traits. Deal with it. Right? It's like, okay, so you have these traits, but what you get when you understand these traits, keys, right? And the key is the shadow. When you understand that trait, then that is the key to unlock that you can also have or be the gift. And it's like, cool. Some of those gifts I mean, all of them are truly our superpowers. They are genius. They are what makes us so freaking amazing. Like, what word should I use? Amazing, amazing. We're amazing. We are amazing. And the Gene Keys reminds us of that every time we feel down about our shadows. It's like, but if we just turn up the frequency, just turn up the vibe, sis, you got this right around the corner. You got this right around the corner. And I don't believe in waiting till you turn the corner before you give yourself the props. So I'm going to jump into the anchoring therein. How are we anchoring? We're using what we have learned about ourselves and our purpose. We are using the archetype to bring home the genius and the superpower that we are here to offer and to lock people in, hopefully, to more of what they're looking for. And in the meantime, how do we enjoy the ride? So I'm going to show you a little bit about what it looks like to walk in the thing. Walk it in, walk it in, walk it in. So we are, oh, they did it automatically. Bravo, señor. So this is the archetype of how people have been telling us all our lives. Set goals and once you reach the goal, give yourself a gold star, right? It's cute. I like it. It's an idea. You can use it. And what happens for a lot of us is that it leaves too much time in which we are living in this uphill climb of not achieving the goal. If I have to wait to here till I can be happy, then I'm in trouble. Am I right? I believe I'm right. So, in this meantime, what does it look like? How do we get to be happy? How do we feel on purpose? How do we know we're on purpose? How do we know we are on the right damn mountain? Like who is helping us do that? How do we know? The best way to do it is to track it within yourself. You have to know what it feels like when you're on purpose. Am I right? I think so. What does it feel like? It feels like the birth process of anything, the creation process of anything. Nature is modeling it for us right now. It looks like the seasons. It looks like spring, summer, fall, winter, right? And if we know that summer comes after spring, no matter how much your global ring is, fall comes after summer. We know this is happening. And we're more likely to understand that that's also happening for other things in our lives, other things that are being created in our lives. Do we know what that looks like? Right? So I put the original creation cycle of humanity as the next circle. That is the menstrual cycle. Right? Knowing yourself at the intimacy of your menstrual cycle is huge. And if you are not a non-menstruator, you also have hormones. There is a hormone cycle happening within you following the moon or lunar cycle. So if you tracked how you are over the cycle of a moon cycle, so new moon, 2 weeks, 24 moon, to worry. If you track yourself for 28 days, you're going to learn something about yourself that you didn't know before. That's the power of cycles. They're telling you how you create, how you live into the world, how you're self-expressing, what people are receiving from you, right? And so the work I do is using voice as a creation cycle of breath. So the breath in and out. And then when we're using our voices, whether speaking, singing, or yelling, we need breath to do that, right? So it's coming from the air, which is non-sensible outside of some strong winds, right? It's not something that we can commiserate on because the wind may feel different on your side than it does on mine. But when we add a vocal vibration to that, we now have a meeting place, a creation in which both of us can perceive what is being created. So I call it the fastest way to practice manifestation, because now you have seconds and milliseconds between the intention of your mind and what actually comes out your mouth, or what actually is happening in what you intended to create, and how close is it to it, the idea. If it's not close enough, then we have a problem with perception. Not that there's something wrong with us, or there's something wrong with our voice. There's nothing wrong with your voice. If you think that you can't sing, then it's not something that's wrong with you physically or your body. This is something that is about our ability to perceive and how we are connected to that possibility. And so my work is about recognizing clearly our own perception so that we can clearly create what we are desiring. When we pull out that circle and we stretch it end to end, it looks like this. Yeah. So this is this big event we're looking at a couple slides back. The event's at the top, and we're like, until we get to the top, and then we get to the top, and it looks like the top of a cycle. So we think we've been trained. Well, you should just get to the top and keep climbing. You should keep going up from there. There's never ending down. There's nothing coming. And it's just like, well, that's just not natural, right? Nature doesn't agree with that statement, right? There's a winter after fall. There's a winter. So, what does the winter look like? And does that mean it's bad? No, winters aren't bad. It's a time for rest. The ground gets to renew itself. We get to renew ourselves. We rest. We celebrate what we've done so far. We have things that work well in these valleys, right? We don't have to always be at the top in order for us to appreciate. Whose favorite season is winter? Not me. I'm a summer baby. I love a summer. I love a summer. But I know there's some winter lovers out there. I know y'all are out there. So instead of working on what we're creating based on what is wrong, I'm looking for y'all to look at what is the highest possibility for every part of that season. When we recognize and we appreciate ourselves through every part of that cycle, then we can be highly impactful. If we know what we need in periods of restoration and our low points after the high point, after big events, and people have weddings and they're like, they get the blues afterwards, or they have a baby and the event happens and then they get depressed afterwards. And I know that's primarily chemically involved, but it is chemical because there's the endorphin of the high of the cycle, and then there's the release. And so if you don't know how to support yourself, how to restore your energy at the end of the pinnacle, then you can't freely and clearly and vibrantly move into the next part of the cycle. Then you can't hit another big peak, right? You're lucky if you make it to like a peak over here, down here somewhere. And so that's what I love to share with people. And then when we're anchoring this into our understanding of our voice becomes powerful in all seasons. So I'm in my winter season right now. And before, you wouldn't have seen me in my winter season unless I had made a really bad date scheduling. But I knew it was coming and I could have rescheduled, right? But what I know about myself now is that I don't have to be in full winter if I am taking care of myself. And I have been. I've been taking care of myself. I haven't been too busy. I haven't been too urgent about the things that I'm doing because I'm taking care of myself. And so I have the capacity to show up as needed at this point, right? So we get to honor the season we're in. The other thing that I do is that I don't hold myself to the same standard as I would in like my summer season, right? And I would actually like a follicular, let's see, it's spring, so spring coming up. So and then I get more energetic, but I also get more ADHD when I'm my follicular. I don't know. That's an assumption on my part. I've never been tested, but I do. My brain goes really fast. I have a lot of energy, but I'm like kind of going in circles, doing everything more than I'm focusing it on one point, right? And so now that I know that about myself, I have that awareness, I can manage it. But at the same time, like if that's my energy, then that's my energy. Great time to do errands. Great time to check all my projects and see where I am and how I want to move forward, right? That's kind of how I see it. I think a little bit later, follicular is probably more so project oriented. But going into ovulation can be a little crazy making too. So sometimes I have to kind of take it down a notch. But it also, ovulation also for me, I can start to like apply it to more specific areas, right? So anyways, but my point is that if we know this about ourselves, then it's easier to play that out. And so what I do as I move these understandings of vibration in all the different ways, we understand them in our breath as they create sound. We understand our cycles in general. Like, what does it look like when we're at our high points? What does it look like when we're at our, I don't want to call them low points, but in those little troughs of our vibrational waves, right? And then what are we good at? It's my wonderful hats off to Stasha Washburn, who is my mentor and coach. And she is doing a summit coming up. I'm going to be the first speaker on Friday. So if you haven't heard about it, I'll put it in the description box when I get off of this thing. But it's going to be great. It's going to be really great. So if you want to check it out, check the description box when I get off. But yeah, so we talked about cycles, and I got into that because, hello, original creation cycle. Of course, I'm interested. I know that if we know our cycles, we know our capacity to make an impact. I know that this is directly correlated, right? And the vibration, our vibration is how we are creating the resonance to amplify that impact. So we don't have to do the work if we're letting the natural cycles, the natural vibrations, the natural waves and amplifications to do it for us. We don't have to work so hard. Okay. So the cycles that I pay attention to and that I invite my clients to pay attention to, although we speak to them at different levels of depth, because the main cycle that we're talking about is the voice cycle in my work. We talk about season. That little picture I just put up, we talk about menstrual and hormonal. We talk about lunar cycles. We talk about the voice cycle. When is our cycle of self-expression? When is it the right time for me to show up? Right? We talk about breath. How are we connecting to our cycles? Breath. Breath is how we're connecting. So for those of you coming over from the breathwork world, voice is the next part. Voice is the next part because we want to be in action, in movement when we are creating, right? Now, that action may look different. Some for different people may not be as visibly moving or active, right, to some people than as others, but it is there. It's definitely there. So that's the point of that. We want to be able to see our breath moving into creation. If we're only using it to kind of jumpstart us into a state, or as healing, and we're using it for like that time, right? Those things will actually, they tend to come back. Okay, this is my opinion, so if you don't agree with me, I get it. But those things tend to come back because there are a couple things that we have to know. We have to know the creation story that they're coming out of, and then we have to be able to recognize that while we're in motion of creation, when we're in a phase of creation before the penultimate, and we've gotten to the goal, we've done the thing, we've finished the book, we've created the seminar, right? If we wait till the end, then it's a little late. We want to know that we're in the process of being in purpose, on purpose, in flow during the whole process. Vibration. So we look at vibration through voice and astrology charts. We're looking at the energies that are coming onto the planet and through us, and how do they relate to my personal experience? How do I relate to my voice? What do I relate? How do I think about showing up, sharing my voice with the world? Because how I feel about that, how I feel about opening my mouth to speak on what's important to me, how do I feel about other people understanding what is important to me and to participate and support my desires of what my vision is, it's so close related. It's so closely tied to, are we going to show up at all? Are we going to be visible at all? Are we going to do the business, or is it just an idea? It's just an idea when we don't believe that our voices will be heard. Right? So if you know there's a major point, a major issue with you, don't wait until it comes up before you start your business. Don't quit your job. I mean, in my opinion, like, don't quit your job if you don't know this about yourself. You don't have to know everything, but you have to start being aware of these cycles within yourself. What does it look like when I have to show up with my voice, my ideas, my passion? How do I really feel about that? How do people receive me when I'm doing that? What is aligned? What isn't? What was intentional? What wasn't? Am I creating what I thought I would create? Or is something completely different happening? Right? And then the breath itself. So the breath, being able to follow the breath, being able to know the timing, the sense, and the vibration is actually, the method itself is actually walking us into an understanding of embodiment, intuition, right? We can better sense our own timing. We can better sense our own capacity. We can better sense the energy and the connection we have to those around us. And it's clear because of the way the method is set up. It's created so that we're not moving forward without a point of clarity, without a point of, if you're trying to, this is my thing about pretty much how everybody does things. The people that are like, do it first and then cry in the corner. I don't know what they were saying. Like, just do it. Kind of stance on these things of just get visible, just go online, just do the thing, which I get it because it's an action. The problem is if we're in action without self-awareness and we aren't tracking what's working and not working. So the method is purposely brings you into a state by breath to be able to track things, not in the stagnancy of breath work of just sitting down to be, well, now I'm aligned. And then when you get up, like, it all goes out the window and you start yelling at a partner, right? Like, not in that sense, but like in the sense of, well, this is my breath and this is how it feels like when I'm connected to how I want to move, what wants to be expressed through me and my body, right? And now that I'm aligned to that, clear on how it's showing up and how it wants to actually happen in real time, right? With that anchor of breath into the purpose that we're jumping into next, that's gonna develop that capacity. Okay, it's, again, without that clarity, we can't predict anything. There's no intuition there because we're not connected. Whatever we're intuiting is being driven by mind, logic, and what we think should happen, how we think people should respond. And then, of course, all those ego-driven absolutes are highly disappointing on the other side of that. Or they leave you with a false sense of security because, again, we're only tracking based on externals and we're not being true to how we want to show up, how we want what it looks like for us to show up on a regular basis, and and then it becomes a problem of sustainability, right? So it doesn't matter how great your results are if you can't sustain them in business. Like, I don't know where you want to apply this because they can be applied to everything. But the reality is that even if it's a short burst of a thing, if we aren't aligned to that burst, then it leaves us out of order, out of what do they call it? At your feelings. Like, it leaves you in a place where you're not as vibrant, capable of moving into the next cycle, of moving into the next thing you want to create. moving into the next relationship, of moving on to what is next in your project, of moving on to the next client, of moving on to, right? Anytime we're having a problem being consistent or sustainable in our work, it's because we have not been clear on that possibility, on that how that cycle works for us. Okay, which isn't to say everything will always work perfect once you understand these things. It just is to say that at least you'll have a clear perception of what is working and what is not working. So instead of repeating what's not working over and over, or finding new ways to do things that aren't working over and over, and at least you can start to perceive what's different, what you want to change, what you want to shift, and how that will look moving forward. So if you want to move forward with me, with more, there are two possible ways you can do that. Actually, the Vocal Creatrix course, at this point, we're almost done with our live cohort. So if you want to join the live cohort, we do have a couple more left. And then you can get a free membership for the classes, which is a monthly membership. You can have that for as many classes as you miss. So for right now, that would be 4 months. You would get 4 months of membership if you sign up for Vocal Creatrix Live right now. If you sign up for Vocal Creatrix, that is just without the live meetings, but you get the same information. The modules are already set up, okay? And then if you're interested in knowing about your signature vibration, right? If you know that you have a purpose and there's been a history where vocal power hasn't felt like a truth for you, you don't always feel empowered when you use your voice, you question whether people are hearing you, you don't understand how people get so confused or things that get confused when you use your voice, that this work is probably for you. If you know that your strength is your voice. So both sides of the coin, if you know that you find healing, you find peace, you find joy in life when you use your voice, especially in singing, right? Then that is actually part of your purpose work. It's part of your purpose work. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people. A lot of my clients also have in Gene Keys, they have a line 5 in their purpose key. And I have a line 5 in my purpose key. And the actual name of the purpose in the activation path is voice. It's vibration. It's about that vibration. Why? It makes us feel alive. It connects us to our life. It connects us to our energy of life. It moves through us. And that's true for all of us. All of us with voices, right? We even, for those of us who don't have voices, have other ways of tapping into that vibration, right? But if you have a voice, it is a powerful tool to tap into your own vibrational power, right? So if you're interested in knowing what your signature vibration is, which is the alchemy of all of your keys and all of the other energies, I also look at the Western chart and I also look at human design and what is wanting to self-express. What is your life expressing and wanting to show up in the world by nature? And then what's fun to me is like it's close enough, right? That what you're gonna see in the answers that come up or the reflections that come up from the chart, your signature vibrational chart, they're going to be the things that you want to share with the world in one way, shape, or form. And so that's how I walk people into what does authentic branding and marketing look like. When we take it from that lens, we aren't trying to put on things just to be salesy, but we're inviting people into our vision of what beauty, love, peace, productivity, excitement, joy look like in our lives and how we share them with others. Okay? So I hope you do join me for one of those things. I do have to put that in the description box as well. I hadn't really decided to use StreamYard as a uh, platform before, but I am liking it nowadays. So maybe more stuff coming to you from me through StreamYard. So one thing we'll finish with is the OMance, the vocal resonance method. We only have a few minutes, so we're not going to go through the whole thing, but I want us to use the first step to anchor in our new clarity of purpose. We talked about what our purpose looked like before, what it looks like now, right? And how are we living into that? I'm so curious. What are the realizations that came up for you over this conversation? What does your purpose look like now? Has it changed? How has it changed it? If it hasn't changed, I'm curious about that too. Like how did you manage that? Is my question. With all the changes in the world and all the changes in the energy, and a lot of the people that find me are empathic, and so they have that lovely sensitivity working for them, and this increasing energy changes on the planet. How did you manage not to change your perception of your vision and purpose? That's my question to you. So if you know what's changed, even without your archetype, so if you haven't looked up your gene key yet, go ahead and pull your free chart. That description, that will also be in the description box when I'm finished. Pull up your gene key chart and see what your purpose key is. What is the shadow? Just look at the words. You can look up the key later. But and also there's a free library on that website as well. So when you look up your key, look up the library and see what it says about that key. But when you find it, see how, not what it tells you about yourself, but what is familiar, what experiences it does it remind you of yourself and others in your life. That's the answer right there. That feeling that those experiences bring up for you. That is what we're going to use to do our first step of the OMance method. Okay? So what does it look like? The first step is just a breath outward. We start with breath. Okay? And we're just going to breathe all the way out. We're going to release all the air available in the lungs. And we're going to breathe out through our perineum, through the floor, into the earth. Deep into the earth when we're breathing out. And then we're going to release and let the air back in from the earth, through the perineum, into the lower belly, below the belly button. There's a reason why I say below the belly button. It invites all these wonderful things, and you tell me what comes up for you when you are doing the exercise. So we'll do the exercise by itself, and then we'll do it with our purpose, okay? So breathing all the way out, and we go to S's to get the rest of the air out. Releasing into the earth as much as possible, and then release the body so it can breathe. Below the belly button. So I have so much energy in my belly, so that means I just need the energy. Taking up, restoring, right? Breathing all the way out. And S's. And breathing into the lower belly, below the belly button, like by release. And do one more. And breathing all the way out. And S's. And releasing. Breath into the belly, below the belly button. You notice how it moves much more quickly when we get to the second and third one, how much we are tensing so that the breath takes longer to move out when we do the breath out. And then by the third one, we have calmed down our nervous system. We're actually triggering the vagus nerve, so it calms down and starts to align our energy in our body, our organs, and our blood. Gets everything in sync. Okay. It'll also calm down the body. A lot of the nervous responses, anxiousness, overwhelm, are taken care of by that vagus nerve triggering and releasing those chill chemicals into the body. Okay. Now, for a lot of people, there's also they do this enough. There's a period where they start to feel uncomfortable when the breath is all the way out. That's your body yelling at you. Not yelling. Hopefully it's not yelling. It may be yelling. It may be yelling. If we haven't been listening to our body for a while, it can be super uncomfortable. There's a lot of stuff speaking to us all at once. This is why we get anxious and overwhelmed. So we want to get to know ourselves. So we are at least aware of what's making us anxious and overwhelmed. Instead of just driving our instincts to ignore, to evade, to run, fight, flight. Yeah. And if we can kind of be with this in a more stable place, then we can start to move forward and decide how we want to move forward. Clearness at the point of presence, at the point of action. Now, I have had suggestions to add a tongue anchoring to the roof of your mouth at the end, because it completes the cycle energetically. So for those who know and work with auric fields, you know that this builds a lot of energy in the body, and then it wants to go somewhere afterward, right? If you aren't reading fields, then what you feel is kind of this like this desire to do something. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. For a lot of us that do things and aren't interested in being seen, but we know you need to do things, and they happen to be things that are visible, this is a really good place to be when you're about to go online. It's tapping into the truth of you and your energy that comes up from the earth and that purpose. And you anchor your purpose, you're thinking about the experience of that feeling of your purpose. So the experience leads to the feeling that comes up in the body around your purpose. Yeah. And breathe that out, putting your awareness on that understanding, feeling, experience. And breathing that into the lower belly from the earth. Now that energy is not only purposeful, it's infused. I mean, it's not just energy for no reason. It's infused with your purpose. And now you have a desire to move in your purpose. So that is the point of the work. So I don't believe really in completing the cycle. I believe that the cycle completes when you share. When you share your purpose, when you act, when you go, maybe you make a meal for your family, or you call a friend, or you start a project, right? That's the whole point. So I hope you do. I hope you do feel that extra boost of energy. I hope you do feel like there's something that wants to come up and out of you, and let that cycle complete and what you're getting done in the world. Thank you for joining me today for your Anchor Your Purpose with Vocal Power. As you can imagine, what comes next is using your voice from that energy, from that come from, right? It is powerful. So I will see you on our next event, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and or evening. I will see you next time.